Welcome to Strong Talk Podcast. I am Kalle Beck, joined by my co-host Mike Battaglino and our guest, pro strongman Davis Diley.
Yep. How you doing, guys?
Good, man.
Yes, you did.
Fantastic.
How's Florida right now?
Florida is actually really kind of rainy and depressing right now. It's not sunny and warm like everybody would expect. I mean, I'm in South Florida, right north of Miami, but it's kind of an ugly day. But hey.
Well, what better way to spend it than talking to some people that usually just click like on their photos back and forth, on social media.
Yep, there you go.
We gotta have an actual conversation, and it's since Mike and I started Strong Talk back up, we're like, we need to get Davis on as a guest, and for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened. And I know you're easy to get a hold of, but I don't know that. So that's our fault. But now here we are, and we get to
here
talk,
we are.
We get to talk all about it.
Yes, sir.
And that was I think we talked about the SoFit contest, which you won your pro card at, and Mike was at, and
right.
Ever since then, we've had a couple other guests that were previous guests that competed in that contest. It's become kind of an infamous contest in a way.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. As soon as it ended, it was just unbelievable, the backlash of just everybody, what they thought about it. And I mean, at the end of the day, you can have your own opinions about a strongman competition, but it's strongman. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's the way I always summed it up is everyone knew the events going in,
right?
And I always say if you disagree with something like that, you can do a different one.
Yep, exactly right. That's kind of what's really interesting about it is that I mean it's a bit of more of an extreme example, that competition, but if you look at the Arnold and World's Strongest Man, it's definitely a different type of a competition that caters to a different sort of athlete, So, I mean, if you look at like Marius, he never really made the Arnold a staple in his competing history. He more stuck to the World's Strongest Man type. He just wasn't that kind of an athlete.
Yeah, and he did it a couple times and then went, nah, I'm just going to focus on Worlds after this. I think.
Yeah, it's a cooler title.
Yeah, well, I think it served him. He did plenty well. I don't know if any strongman's done as good as Marius, monetarily wise or anything since.
Right.
Maybe Eddie Hall, from what I hear, is getting up there, but I think that's still yet to be determined. But yeah, I think it depends, and also you should train accordingly. And your lifts show that you're a great athlete, and I think if stuff like the deadlift medley was heavier, it's not like you can't deadlift. So
no, that's one thing. I actually would have wished that it was heavier. I mean, because that's my favorite lift, is like a car deadlift-esque event, even if it's like a frame. I just, I'm built for it. That's my favorite kind of thing, and I really wish that would have been heavier. The rest of the competition, I guess, was pretty standard. A 300 log. It actually, I heard that it was a little bit heavier than 300, maybe 3.5, 310 or something like that. That's what it came out to. But, an 800-pound yoke for more than 60 feet, it was 75. There was definitely some cardio in there with the kegs, but, they were two 75-pound kegs, which aren't incredibly light. They're, for the
same
distance.
As Worlds, and
yeah,
actually longer distance.
Yeah, it is. So a competition like that, it definitely tested strength, but at the same time, speed and athleticism was much more highlighted in that competition than an Arnold or something like that.
Sure, and which is an equal part of strongman, which sometimes people they just don't want to believe, because medleys suck. That's what Mike and I always say. Training medleys suck. So
yep, that's for sure.
Yeah,
not getting around it.
Everyone wants to be a strongman, but they want to just train like a power lifter and not do, keep their reps under 3 and take long breaks, and that's just not really. That's not really what the sport is at the end of the day.
Nope.
It's
no.
You have to be good at
Being
that
strong,
and everything else. So
absolutely.
So now that that's out of the way, let's get into who Davis is. So how you how old are you now, and how did you get your start in strongman?
Well, I'm 25 years old. I got my start in strongman. Well, I was always a very athletic kid in high school. I played football ever since I could walk, and played lacrosse. And I was always in the gym, and I always just cared about getting a big bench press, like pretty much everybody just cares about doing at that age. And actually, I got injured playing lacrosse and subsequently injured in football. So all I could really do was just lift upper body in the gym, and I kind of fell in love with the weight room. And so I went to college and decided not to play football. I just wanted to focus on weightlifting because I knew that I loved being in the gym and I loved progressing in that way. But, I was your typical gym bro all the way up until like 18 years old. I never really, never lifted lower body. I was just, going to the gym, back buys, chest tries, shoulders, and I didn't do legs because I didn't like being that sore. And I'm not gonna lie to you, man. That's where I came from. But I always trained harder than everybody, and I knew I took it more seriously than everybody else around me, and I just had this hunger just to be great. I didn't really know what at, but I guess at that time it was just being as detail oriented as possible. But I remember calling up my buddy, best friend growing up, Brian Fletcher. I'm pretty sure you know who he is.
Does he do strongman too?
He does the strongman sport. Yes, he does.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, putting the 275 Bardos a dumbbell over his head at 25 years old. Pretty dang impressive. But anyways, yeah. So we knew each other all through high school. We're best friends growing up, and I called him up one day, and I was sitting there, and I was having a problem with motivation. I was just like, Brian, I don't know what I'm doing, man. Like, I'm trying to be strong and I'm trying to be big, but I don't know what to do. I'm not doing any sports right now. What is that sport that you just started called? What's that sport? He goes, strongman. And I was like, okay, well, tell me about it. So he told me about it, and he sent me a video, The Viper by Derek Poundstone, that video, that old one, and after that I was hooked. I was like, dude, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, that was one of the first especially for the time, well put together like montage training clips that was impressive on YouTube. What was this, like around like 2006, 7? I think, or maybe a little later, but yeah, it was
something like that. I think it was 2007. It was right before he was about to go head to head with Marius on that Stone series at the end.
Yeah, which I think was 2008. So yeah, I think this was 2007. Yeah, and there's a lot of people in the sport that haven't seen those old videos, and
man,
I rewatch it, man. I watch it a couple times a year.
Yeah, that's where the sport really started getting a lot bigger. Was guys like Poundstone, that was had a little bit more of a bodybuilder type of physique that people were like, dang, that's really really cool, and I thought it was awesome. So that's what kind of motivated me to go into the gym and stop being a little wuss and testing out leg strength and stuff. And I remember deadlifting. For the first time I remember deadlifting, like I actually
600 pounds. First time.
No, not quite. I'm not pulling like a Benny Mag here or anything, but I walked up to the bar. I had my buddy filming. I walked up to the bar with my knee wraps on. And I had 405 on the bar, and I was decided to do it as many times as possible, and I pulled it for 15 reps, and I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. Let's go up. So I went to 455, and I pulled it for 8 reps, and I was like, dang, I like deadlifting a whole lot. So I got to the point, like I would just, every time I'd go into the gym, I'd work to failure and pushing as absolutely as hard as I could, and I worked myself up pretty strong, and I loved it so much, and I knew that I was in the right track as far as my life and stuff when like I was having a hard time falling asleep the night before because I was about to deadlift the next day. You know what I mean? You're bitten by the lifting bug when that happens,
And you're what, like late teens at this point?
Yeah, I was 18. I just turned 18 years old.
Yeah, that's a good mindset to be in when you're 18 and you have all the free time in the world and
right, exactly.
Just worry about deadlifting.
Exactly. I mean, that's what college is. I mean, it lends itself to. I mean, if you really want to be serious about something or serious about a sport, you got enough time to really educate yourself about it because, the first couple years of college really aren't that big of a grind or anything like that. So yeah, I decided to educate myself about it and learn as much about it as possible. And, listen to the Poundstone Power Radio, and I was watching videos of Zadrunas Savickas and all those guys, and built myself into really really strong. And I was actually able to apply it in the strongman world through the Florida Atlantic University Strong Owl competition, because it's like a little university-wide, who's the strongest owl type of a thing. And I would go out there, and I did really, really well at it. And pretty much after that, I started entering NAS competitions, and the rest is history as far as that's concerned. I actually ended up hurting my back as soon as I really got into it. I worked myself up to about like a 715-pound deadlift for 4 reps, because I was just one of those guys that bounced it, just bounced reps, rep after rep after rep. And I lost form, and I actually ended up suffering like an annular tear and a small protrusion. And I was out for like 2 straight years, man. And it was just a grind to learn how to overcome the mental side of an injury and the physical side, rehab yourself and stuff. So, I had to learn a lot of the, how to be as an athlete mentally pretty dang early on, because, coming back from an injury, anything better than me, Kalle, it ain't fun. You know what I mean?
It's never fun. And they compound themselves over time as well as the other thing that makes it hard. But yeah, it's if you want to push and be at a really high level, that's just part of it. You're going to get hurt at some point, and you have to learn how to train around it and come back from it. That's one you can tell like how experienced a strongman is by like all the different like workarounds they have.
Absolutely. Well, because it really forces you to kind of call into question, like, okay, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this to myself? Like, do I really want to do this thing? And do I really want to injure myself? But if you come out on the other end and you're saying like, yeah, there's no question that I'm just going to keep pushing through it. That you take it seriously enough to be great. And that's really what it takes, is that base level of passion that no matter whatever it takes, I'm just going to push through it. And you become a better athlete because of those injuries, honestly, I think.
Yeah, you definitely, you either learn from them or you quit. There's not much way around it. And not only that, it makes you learn to structure things in a more careful manner going forward, hopefully. You can only be so careful, though. Like, it's just, there's that fine line between pushing it to get better and then backing off so you don't do something stupid, but it's a very fine line. It
is a very fine line. And if you're not pushing that line, you're really not going to go where you need to go. You need to kind of be, I don't want to say crazy, but you got to have, I guess, a couple screws loose to push yourself in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I talk to a lot of people that want to do the sport recreationally, and I tell them all the time, it's like, that's fine. Just know, like, you're not, if you just want to kind of dabble in this and get to that limit and stop, you're probably better off overall for like quality of life, honestly.
Yeah.
You probably are, and just do some local contests, but you're not going to go pro that way. You're not going to win a national championship that way. That's just at the highest level of sport, there's going to be more risk. It's just how it works.
It's not called safe man.
No.
It's not called smart man.
Definitely not.
It's called strong man.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing, though, is that I feel, I've suffered several injuries in this sport, but the last serious one I had was at 2014 Nationals. I actually dislocated my shoulder doing the dumbbell press on the first rep, because I had my arm so externally rotated that the head of my humerus popped out, and it tore my labrum like circumferentially pretty much off of the bone, and tore my biceps tendon and bruised the head of my humerus as well. And it was a nasty, nasty, nasty injury. And, I wasn't asking myself like, okay, am I going to come back from this or whatever? I was like, how am I going to do it? And it really led to kind of a revolution of my training. And I feel that that's what happens to an athlete oftentimes after an injury is, you got to kind of pull back, retool, and then go forward again. Like if you look at Mark Bell, Mark Bell changed everything after he fell on the platform. It was like, maybe I shouldn't be so big, maybe I shouldn't do that. And that's pretty much the road that I went down, was going to lose some weight, kind of like Andrew Clayton or some of the other guys in the sport at the time. They kind of were just like, look, I don't necessarily need to be so big. I'm kind of gonna try to be more of an athlete. And I retooled it, and it led me to the style of training that I have today. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I'm actually, I hate to say it, but I'm actually really glad I got hurt, because I was training pretty stupid in a lot of ways.
Yeah, no, they're always, anytime you lead up to get hurt, you go, oh yeah, that wasn't the smartest way. And I think how people have approached training for strongman has changed a lot from, because it's still a very new sport, especially like how long has NAS really been around? Not where there's amateur level in North America, not really that long. Like what, 15 years, a little over 10 years, something like that.
Yeah, not really, and it's just really starting now to reach a good height of popularity where you have a lot more people going like, "Hey, I'd like to try that,"
Yeah, I think it's really growing right now, but that was I think that segues well, because I was going to ask you, because you all of a, I've seen you at a couple contests, and then all of a sudden you're like, damn, you're getting down towards middleweight. You're almost 231. And I think we had a couple conversations about that. Like, just go down there and dip your toes in the water and go pro there.
Yeah.
But, you're about 240. So how much were you weighing? And then, how'd that whole process?
I was always just naturally, I fall at about 250 pounds when I'm trying to be big. I mean, that's just where my body wants to settle, I guess, because that's one of my stopping points. Just to continue my story, I mean, I think that's the best way to explain it, is just kind of tell my story of how I came to that conclusion and why I did what I did. So I hurt my back, and I came back, and I had to retool my training. And so I came back, and I started deadlifting again, and I learned that, as I'm going to work around an injury or something, I'm going to have to get smart. I can't just go into the gym and just deadlift for reps on reps on reps on reps on reps, or do anything like that. So traditionally in strongman, what I was doing is I met Heath Allison, heavyweight professional strongman down in South Florida, one of my best friends. Great guy, and he opened up his house to me and a few other guys, and we always trained there. And he's just a wealth of knowledge, just great guy to have around. Learn little tricks of the trade. Even though he gives them up, even at his age, he gives them up pretty sparingly. He's not going to sit there and just tell you everything that you're going to do, that he knows, but he'll toss you a little biscuit every now and then. I latched onto his style of training, which was West Side Barbell Conjugate method. You sit there, and I wanted to be as scientific as possible and as meticulous as possible with my training. So I followed it as closely as humanly possible. I immersed myself in it. Like, I wanted to be able to quantify how my performance was going to go, what I'm actually doing, and what I'm trying to accomplish. So I watched endless videos, read the West Side Barbell Book of Methods, and I would go into the gym with a luggage scale to test the band tension and all that kind of stuff. Like, I was in it, and I ended up not really going anywhere. I would go into the gym some days and I would feel fatigued. Other days I would feel good, and I wouldn't know why, and I just plateaued. I didn't really get stronger, and I actually kind of was putting on weight at that time, trying to be as big as possible. I got to 285, pretty fluffy, and my strength never went anywhere. I thought when you were getting bigger, you were supposed to get stronger. I mean, that's the name of the game in a lot of ways, so I thought. And so since I didn't get any stronger, I sucked up my pride, and I ended up giving my friend a call, who I had known. He was one of my best friends in college. His name is Chad Dolan. And I used to work with him at the FAU Recreation and Fitness Center, and we used to get into it about training, training philosophy and theory and how you actually get stronger. And, I would always hit him with the West Side Barbell stuff, this, that, and this, the other. And I didn't know at the time, but Chad had actually been working underneath Dr. Michael Zordos, who is... I
knew you were going there.
I mean, it's like, look, man, where else am I going to go? I mean, he's right at Florida Atlantic University. He's right there all by chance. And he's one of the leading professors of periodization and exercise physiology in the country. And he puts out the stuff that they pull out of that strength lab that they have there is just amazing, how thorough those guys are. And what they the system they operate off of is daily undulating periodization, or DUP.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't really know a whole lot about it. I just knew that it was doing, things several times a week. That's about all I knew. So I started talking to Chad, and I told him, I was like, I was doing bench press at the time. And I told Chad, I was like, man, I'm weak at the lockout on my bench press. I can't break through. What do I do? I think I'm going to do board press, close grip, banded, chained lockouts. Yeah, because I need to, accentuate my triceps. I need to focus on my triceps.
Yeah, make it as complicated as possible.
Right, and trying to get a little too cute with it. And he was like, Davis, think about what you just said. I was like, what? He said, look, you're doing bench press, and you're constantly failing. Your triceps are failing you at the top portion of the lift. I go, yeah. He said, well, doesn't that mean that your triceps are being utilized so much so in the bench press that they're actually failing you, or very close to that same type of an issue? And I was like, I guess so. I didn't want to listen to him. So I eventually sucked it up, and I listened to him, and I started going with this theory and this style of training. And I was deadlifting 3 days a week, and my deadlift actually started to go up. And at that same time, I started losing weight, and I went from 285 down to about 235, 240 the whole time, on a ketogenic diet. Okay. Like doing a carb night style type of a diet, and I actually was getting stronger through the entire process, because what I learned is that working with these guys are just absolutely brilliant. Like, I go into usually I'm telling people what to do, right? And I know what I'm doing, as far as training goes. But when I walk into and I start talking to these guys, I'm like, okay, I feel really inferior with a lot of my knowledge right now, even though I'm a professional strongman, this and that. I walk in and I'm actually the student. So I learned that, when it comes to a lot of lifts, let's just take powerlifting, for example. You got bench, squat, deadlift. These lifts are skills. As much as you need to be strong at them, they're skills, and you have to not just be strong, but you have to be good at them. And, if you, like, for instance, if you want to get good at something, let's take like a bouncing a basketball. I'm not going to sit there and bounce a basketball one day and then go into the gym the next day and kick a soccer ball, and the next day go throw a football. I'm like, no, I'm sit there. I'm going to bounce a basketball as much as I can and much as I need to. And that's really sort of a kind of a crude sort of an analogy for it. I go into the gym and I train something very often and as often as I can, physiologically and physically, so I can actually be as good at something as possible. And that lends itself to strongman incredibly well, because when you have a competition coming up, you've got very specific events that you may not have seen for a year, 2 years, however long. I had a competition coming up where I'm going to be doing power stairs. I haven't ever done power stairs in competition, so I'm going to sit there and I'm going to do it as absolutely much as humanly possible, so that I can become skilled at it, as well as strong and skilled. And by the time I get to competition, I have done that event more than anybody else there, bar none, hands down. And that not only helps my skill, but it helps your confidence. And when you're confident about something, when you walk up to a max, whether you kind of know whether you're going to get it or not, you sit in your mind and you go like, I got this, watch this.
Yeah.
Or versus like, oh, well, let's see how it goes. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do, that is, it's just sort of a peek into the training style that I do. And it works incredibly well. And I love it, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, really.
Yeah. I think there's sometimes with going up to a max lift, you kind of lie to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I got to do this right now, and but like there's times you're going to get that lift, and
right,
you can count the amount of times when you walked up and you're like, I really, really know I'm going to get this, and there was not a doubt in your mind, and you missed. It's very rare.
Right, it is.
There's sometimes where you're like, I think I can, and you still do, and you push yourself. But there's the amount of times where you're that confident, and and you've built up that self-efficacy in your training, which is one of the things I find very important when I tell people not to, hammer contest weight every week, day in, day out.
Right.
because then it feels hard the whole time. So you're going into this event, oh, this yoke's going to crush me, because it's been crushing you for 10 weeks.
Right. So that's absolutely right.
Yeah, slowly build up. Oh, this felt easy. I put 50 pounds on this week. Now it feels even easier. Where do you go? It's definitely a very important note to for everyone that listens, just to think about that, is how to build confidence going into game day. I think a lot of us were kind of gym rats, and we just like lifting. So you have to learn that the competition is the event. It's like you're getting ready to play a football game or something. Everything else is just practice, running drills, etc. for that day. But when you're a gym rat and you don't really compete, you feel like every gym day is that competition, and you have to make that distinction. So at some point we're like, okay, I'm an athlete, I'm going to compete, I need to build up for this day. So you're basically, to sum it up, you're doing the lifts more frequently and more specific.
Yes, I am. I'm doing it more specific, and it pays off in dividends all the time. Like overhead press was my weakness, and now it's one of my biggest strengths, for log press or something like that. And, being a really light guy, you look at a lot of these guys in Olympic lifting and so forth, they're just putting over stupid weight over their head because they're technicians, they're students at the game. That's what they're in there doing every single day. They're in there just pounding those pathways, and, it's second nature to them. They could do it at the drop of a hat and do it very well, but a lot of times in strongman, we just don't have that luxury. Why would I be sitting there trying to max squat or really test my squat when I'm in the middle of a competition prep, for when squat's not even in it? Why not spend that energy in a place that truly is going to show up on comp day, just building your skill set, and that helps your confidence unbelievably. Like, I tell my clients that I've been training online, like, look, in terms of your confidence, you need to walk up to a weight like when you see Zydrunas Savickas. You don't see Big Z getting all hyped up and screaming a whole lot. I've seen it once or twice when he was like deadlifting out, trying to deadlift Brian Shaw. But other than that, he walks up with that kind of a mentality like, watch this. Ladies and gentlemen, watch what I'm about to do, because it's going to be great. And when you master that process, it is so beneficial to you, because if you do not think, or you don't, I guess you could say, if you don't know that you're going to lift a weight, you probably aren't going to lift it. And that's so vitally important to anybody out there who really wants to be good at a lift and be confident in a lift, is get good at it, become incredibly skilled at it. And that's what my style of training really, really, really works well, is building confidence. And it's great. It really
so
is.
do you use like something like RTS does with Track, like the training recovery assessment computer? Do you use that?
No, I don't. I do not. I don't. Well, look, if I was lifting every single day with Zordos and all those guys, I'm sure I would. But yeah, I operate on my own down in Broward Barbell Center in Fort Lauderdale. It's a great gym. It's really hardcore.
AJ's gym, right? Is it AJ?
Yeah,
Does he own it?
Yeah, AJ's the manager of it, and I know the guys that own it, and they're just really great guys, and they've opened the place up for strongmen and powerlifters. So it's kind of like a no BS sort of gym. It's pretty small, but it's got everything that I need down there. So that's where I've been operating out of. Mike, you know AJ, correct?
I do. I actually I don't remember if it was Nationals in 11 or 12 that I met him. But I remember in my fondest memory of AJ was that he came out, he got his opening deadlift,
right,
and then I think his second one, he missed it, and his third one, he went and tried to pull it sumo. Because at the time, like, his conventional and his sumo were about the same. So he's like, I figured I'd just give it a shot. It was something like that. It's pretty awesome. But AJ's Andy's got the shirt company too, with the fish.
Yeah,
I don't even remember what it's called.
I forget the name of it, but he's got a couple. I mean, with Broward Barbell, we like to pride ourselves on how many shirts we can fit on the wall, and he's got a couple of those bad boys sitting up there.
Yeah, they're. I don't know how he got started with that, but they're pretty funny. I don't know if you have any of like the NASCAR shirts.
Oh
You know?
yeah, yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, there's a couple funny ones. I like them.
But it seems like you got a great atmosphere, and you lift with some really strong guys. Who's the guy
Yeah.
that? Who did you bring out to Jacksonville with you?
Oh well, I mean, I brought my whole crew out there, I guess you could say. But
No, who's the guy?
Ryan, the guy is Ryan Ramsauer.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, he's kind of like he's my training partner, and he's somebody. He's like a perfect example of somebody that wanted to get into strongman. That I sort of, it's actually really really funny. I was the only guy who trained like I did, right? And like everybody that I trained was like, Davis, you cannot train like that. You cannot deadlift heavy 3 days a week. You can't. It's ludicrous. You're gonna hurt yourself. You can't press 3 days a week. You can't do this. You can't do that. And, we kind of got a bunch of new guys in there. Thanks to you, Kalle, actually, from the Strongman Gym Map. We had a bunch of guys. And actually, yeah, he's, Ryan's my best friend down here in Florida.
Strides.
He has. And that's what's so great is because I guess you could say when I found him, he sort of was like, well, Davis seems like he knows what he's talking about. So I'm just going to listen to Davis. You guys can do your own thing. I'm going to listen to Davis. And so we started training together, and he surpassed everybody else there, that was starting at the same time he did. His deadlift went from when I got him, his deadlift was about 500 pounds, 495, and he was an incredibly serious trainer. He had a great amount of muscle on him to begin with, so he was sort of perfect, like primed to actually start training. And so he started at 500 in about a year and 4 or 5 months now, he is going to be going for a 675 max, maybe 725 with a suit on. And, it's just amazing, nothing short of amazing of the progress that he's gotten. And, after a while, he started telling me, he's like, Davis, look, you've got something really unique here. You have something very, very special that I don't think anybody else in strongman does. I've never heard of anybody training like it. He's like, you need to start telling people about it. You need to start getting this out there and showing people, so, and I was like, well, what do you propose I do? And he's like, look, you need to start training people and showing people how to do it. And so that's when I created Davis Strength Systems, and I offered all that training online, and everybody that I've started training, I've got about 20 high-level amateurs and a couple pros right now that I'm showing how to actually do all this stuff. And it's sitting there and they're like, dude, I've been doing this for a month and I'm already hitting lifetime PRs. Like Heath Allison is so funny.
And he's been training forever.
Yeah, he's been training for so long, and he kind of, he was always in that conjugate method, and he was really, really like, I guess, anti-Davis Strength Systems type of training, I guess you could say. And he was like, all right, look, I'm going to humble myself, and I'm going to do every single thing that you tell me to do. And I promise you I'm not going to cheat on it, and I'm not going to do anything you don't tell me to do. And I'm like, good. That's really good to know. I'm glad you're going to follow it. Perfect. And he trained in 4 weeks, he went from deadlifting 700 pounds to matching his old lifetime, or actually surpassing his old lifetime PR of 750. And he went to 763, and he matched his old log PR in 8 weeks of 350. And I think he's much stronger now. We're going to be setting him up for the ever elusive 800-pound deadlift here not too long after like 12 weeks of training, and he loves it. And it's just great. I love being able to help and show people who are kind of out of it, who want to get back into it as quickly as possible, and really, I guess, get back to where they were and then surpass it, or go to places you've never been before for that new person. And it's great. It's just a joy of mine to be able to know that I am actually, that I know what I'm talking about, and that I can actually quantify how somebody's going to feel on a given day, or how to peak for a max or whatever, and not just go off by something I read out of my like a book or something that I've actually done my own homework on, experiments on, and actually figuring it out myself. Is just, it's so liberating, because I feel like that I know the best type of strongman, the way to train there is. I mean, for myself, yeah, and I feel like you have to feel that way, because if you don't, why are you doing it?
You got to believe in what you're doing, man. Otherwise, yeah.
It's just like approaching a max lift. What are you going to do? And you're going to tell people if you don't believe in everything, then what is it? Yeah, and it's one thing putting theory into practice and actually having it come to realization, and it's another thing by taking someone who's never done strongman events or even knew how to do them and making them progress. That's going to happen no matter what. That's going to happen.
Right.
You said you just went in and beat yourself up and still got up to a 700-something pound deadlift.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whole other thing to take someone who's already turned pro, kind of, taking a step back because, it gets frustrating, nothing's working, and then making them hit lifetime PRs at, like in their masters division at this point. That's a whole different thing.
You're never going to get him in that division. Just to let you know, Heath goes, hey, is Mark Felix still competing in the heavyweight pro strongman, world's strongest man? Yeah, all right,
masters.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But
Z's doing masters worlds this year.
Stop it.
No way.
Yeah.
All right, you right now.
Really?
Yeah, he said it. You guys didn't listen to the podcast last week?
I
still on my watch later.
The Z press part, man. No, I listened to him talking about all the Hummers that he had gotten sold and
he
how
had a freaking car lot.
I sell lots of Hummers. It's very difficult.
So to switch gears just a little bit, there was another sport you might have taken up because is there another pro Diley in your family? Another professional?
Yes, there is. As a matter of fact, my father is a professional PGA golfer, and he's been. I mean, it's amazing what he does, and just the knowledge that he has. What he actually does is he was a PGA Tour professional for a number of years, and now he's working on a business that he's made. He actually has a putting trainer that corrects putting, and it's just amazing. I actually drove up to the PGA merchandise show to help him out at his booth, and the reception that he had with this putting trainer is just awesome. But a lot of the Golf Channel and so forth really wants to have him on there and stuff. But it was just really something that I think helped me in the long run with myself as an athlete. When you have somebody, I don't care what sport it's in, golf, football, basketball, whatever, it's the same mentality, it's the same level of kind of a dedication. And whenever, especially through my injuries, whenever I would, kind of be down or questioning, the approach that I needed to take, I would ask him, and I'd be like, look, what does it take to be great? Like, what was your mindset when you were killing it, in golf? And he would say, he pulled out a little book, a little notepad, and he had quotes written down. And one of the quotes, actually kind of funny, I just remembered, was, you need to think that your stuff is better than anybody else's. Period. And that was it. That was the only quote on the whole page that he had there. And I sat there, I was like, wow, that's actually, and just now thinking about it, I actually made that connection. Like, it's really the same kind of a thing. When you walk up to a max deadlift or something, you have to have utter confidence. You got to know that it's going to be a lift and it's going to be successful. And the same thing with a difficult golf shot. You got to know when you walk up to it, like, hey, watch this, here goes. It's going to be great. You better get your popcorn ready, kind of a thing. And I'm eternally grateful for my dad. He's always been there for me, and I love him so.
That's where I was going with that, man. Because I don't know. I don't even remember how we got into a conversation about that. But I found out your dad was a pro golfer, and you're absolutely right. I mean, any professional didn't get there because they didn't. They weren't just. They didn't go play golf and then like, hey, here's your pro card.
Right.
Of the hundreds of thousands of golfers in this country, how many become pros?
No, gosh. Oh, yeah. It's that's something that's really cool. Is strongman's growing and it's becoming much more difficult to become a pro. It really is. I mean, from becoming a pro now versus back in the day it's different. I mean, you got guys
bigger talent pool, yeah.
It's a bigger talent pool and all that type of stuff, and to have somebody who actually reached that height in your family, I mean, is just incredible. It really is, and it's valuable as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I always when I was trying to win at the 175, like when they first made the the class, I'm like, well, I'm going to do this before anybody good gets in it. You know? Like I realized that, you know, and then no one knows, like, oh, did you win? But, you know, there was still good people in it, obviously, but it's only going to grow. It's only going to get harder.
That's one of the things I say. And now, you know, I mean, like, look, when you become a professional strongman or for instance, I mean, like, you have different opportunities throughout the year. And this is actually a conversation that I had with Brian not too long ago, because I'll talk to Brian on the phone for a couple hours. You know, I mean, we shoot the crap, talk about freaking anything, but a lot of times our conversations go talking about strongman and just, you know, what we're doing and how everything's going. And one of the conversations I had with him is like, look, if you're vying for a pro card, I mean, look, the coolest thing to do to become a pro is to win the national championship or the international championship. I mean, it really is like, I mean, like, look, you're going against everybody, okay? But at the same time, you may have a guy that is so strong and just right at the precipice of getting his pro card, but you train all year long, and then you get to the competition, but you screw up on one event just a little bit. And there are a flood of guys that go in and steal your points because you messed up. You know, you absolutely have to, I guess you say, have the stars aligned to actually get your pro card at a Nationals or an Arnold in a way, because, you know, if you screw up, that's it. It's done. You know, you could be good enough to become a pro, but, you know, if you go to maybe like a Plat Plus or something like that, you can make a couple mistakes and it doesn't cost you quite as much. You know, I mean, like, I know that I made a couple mistakes in that Jacksonville Plat Plus competition that I got my pro card at. You know, like, I had the fastest keg time, but I dropped the keg like right at the edge of the mat. Like, I didn't set it quite over the edge of the mat, and I ended up losing a couple points on that. Ken Nowicki actually beat me out. Ken Nowicki's really, really very, very fast, very strong guy, and, you know, he pulled through and ended up, you know, he was better at that event that day, just straight up was. And, you know, it's just, you know, you got to pick and choose your battles intelligently, because I don't know if many people know this about me, but, you know, the competition Plat Plus that I won was actually the first NAS competition that I had ever come first place in, and I'd come second place and stuff like that. But you know, it really is, because, you know, a lot of it comes down to how do you show up that day. You know, really, you can be as strong and as big as you want, but how are you going to show up that day? How are you going to be prepared mentally? Are you going to be antsy, or are you going to be calm in the events? You know, the way you approach a competition is just very, very important, because I used to sit there. It's something I was actually talking to Brian Fletcher about as well. As 2014 Nationals, we were just sitting there, and the whole time we would hardly look at each other or anybody else. Ethan Farkas was sitting there. Everybody was just stone-faced, listening to, you know, Slipknot, Duality the entire time. And you have like 2 hours, maybe more, in between each event. And by the time the event comes, you're already exhausted because you've been focusing and expending your mental focus the entire time. So, I mean, at this, finally, when I learned how to compete, was at this last competition. I finally learned the proper way to approach it. Man, in between the events, I was hanging out. I wasn't even thinking about the competition, really. The competition was going on. You know, the women were going, or the other guys were going, and I wasn't even close to going. I was scrolling through Instagram. I was taking a chill pill.
Didn't you take a nap?
No, not me. My buddy did. I got a funny picture of him too. I put it on Snapchat. He wasn't too happy about it. I took an emoji, and he was laying on his back, and I put some flowers right at his hands because they were folded over his chest, and I said "rest in peace" because he was done for the day. So yeah, it's just important to learn that kind of stuff, and that only comes through competing. You know, you gotta always take the opportunity to compete when you have the opportunity, if it's in line with your overall goals. Yep. You know, that's what I try to tell people. Like, if you need to get your deadlift up, straight up, have to get it up. Like, let's say you're at a 600-pound deadlift, and you have a competition on the horizon that you might want to do. Well, I'm sorry, to be competitive in strongman, if you want to reach the heights, you have to have, I don't know, like, let's just say 750-pound, maybe 800 deadlift, in that range. If you are so far away from that, why are you going to sit there and choose a competition that doesn't have deadlift in it at all? because you're better off choosing a competition that it will allow you to still attack your weaknesses and things that you help get up. You know, if you have a weak deadlift, it'd be really great if you could train to get a stronger deadlift, you know, the entire time while you're prepping for a competition as much as you can, you know, because if you don't have deadlift in a like straight bar deadlift in a competition and you have all this other stuff, you might be able to train deadlift, but you're not going to be able to give it as much attention as you really should, and it will hold you back overall.
Mentally as well as physically.
Absolutely. Because
if you know that number's coming, I mean, you're going to keep fighting for it. If that opening deadlift is above your max,
right,
you're going to be like, all right,
you're
that's where I have to be and not zero.
Yeah, you're going to be focused on it. And that's why I always say strongman, by just how the nature of that, the attempts aren't picked for you, they're assigned, and you have to show up, forces you to get stronger than some other sports.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just you have to. Or you don't. It's simple, and you know, you training that whole 12 weeks, you know, flying somewhere, all the expenses that go with that, and then to zero, right. You don't want to do that. So
no, absolutely not. You know, it's actually kind of funny too, is because one of my clients is one of the strongest guys in Canada, and he when he signed up with me, he was like, yeah, I really need to focus on my deadlift. Like, I need to get my deadlift up. It's like 650. 655 right now, and I was like, okay, this was about 6-7 weeks ago, something like that. And he was like, oh, by the way, I have a competition coming up in 6 weeks. I need to get ready for it. I'm like, well, okay, well, I know you need to get your deadlift up, but what are the events in the competition? Thankfully, one of the events was actually a straight bar deadlift, and I was like, great, so we can attack your weakness with absolute pure focus. Nothing we do is going to be wasted. Everything I have you do picking something up off the ground is going to be for that deadlift, because you can't show up and not perform. You're good on stones. You're very good on stones. So we're going to put that to the side a little bit. We're going to make sure that you're brushed up for it, but I need you to get good at that deadlift. You're great at stones, so get good at the deadlift. He showed up on comp day, since we had laser hyper focus on the deadlift, and he pulled his previous max when he started with me, 655, for 5 reps in the span of 7 weeks.
That's awesome.
And he was just, dude, that is awesome. That's great. And I said, look, if you prioritize things correctly, that's what it comes down to, is priorities. When you step into the gym, what are you doing and why are you doing it? And you better have a concrete answer for the exact reason you're doing something, because if you don't, then you probably should not be giving it the kind of focus that you're giving it. I mean, it just comes down to saving time and being efficient. Efficiency is the name of the game. You have a finite amount of time in this sport and in life in general, so you have to make it count. When you're in there, what are you doing, you know?
Yeah, I think it's also an interesting note where people feel like the deadlift is like the #1 strength decider for strongman, like you have to use it, but
right.
There's a lot of people that are good at stones and good at everything else that are not good at deadlifting. It's not,
yeah.
You know, they might be, you know, a longer limb person, so stones, you know, they're able to get a better grip around the stone, and then
hey, who do you think you're talking to, man? I got some long limbs here, man. That's built for the deadlift, you know.
But I think it's just an interesting point where people feel like, you know, the deadlift carries over to everything else, and everything in itself is a unique skill. It's all strength,
right.
And there's some carryover between each, but
right, absolutely.
But still, everything is a specific skill. Picking up a sandbag and then picking up a stone is similar, and it's going to carry over, but it's still a specific skill.
How are you going to place your hands on that sandbag? I mean, you got to place one hand here and the other hand here, and you have to pick it up just like this. And the more times you do it, the more efficient you're going to be, because if you pick it up and you stumble for one little microsecond, you've lost. I mean, that's the way it comes down to in the sport. Sure. You know, like for instance, when I was going into that Plat Plus, I had never touched a Bardos keg ever, and when I went into that comp, thankfully, it was amazing. I mean, I loved that piece. It just felt so centered and great. I mean,
it feels great, man.
So
it's a great
keg.
It does. 275.
keg.
Excuse me. It feels like nothing compared to a 275-pound keg. When you have like filled with concrete or gravel or something, it's just that's honestly that I love.
It's bumpers versus iron.
Yeah,
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
it's going to be better balanced. It feels more solid. Where, and if you've trained with a bunch of heavyweights, I always trained with real strong heavyweights. Is kegs get beat the fuck up. Like
They
the whole
do.
bottom smash. There's like one spot you can still grab it on, and that Bartos
Yep.
keg, it's like it has a handle, like it was meant to be
Mm-hmm.
carried. Now,
It's
Like it was
great.
designed for that. Yeah.
I love that stuff that he's made. I really did. Like, it had been a while since I touched any big dog stuff. I used to love that big dog yoke, and I tried that Bardos yoke. Man, that thing is solid. I love that stuff. It's great quality stuff.
Did you finally get yours, Mike?
I like the stuff. No, I don't have it. It's still in Florida.
Yeah. You should go give it some love for him, Davis.
Yeah. Okay. It's over in Ocala, But do you have one at the gym now?
No.
At the Broward Barber
Well, I mean, we don't actually have a Bardos yoke. We have actually every Bardos piece of equipment except for the yoke and those new deadlift jacks. And
they're nice. I have those.
I've seen them. I haven't ever had the chance to use them, but we just got that new dumbbell, and that thing that's a different animal all to itself. I'll tell you what, but it's solid, and once you get it, I just did it the other day, and once you finally get that pattern down of where to set it, because it sits a little differently, you're good to go.
Yeah, I like that the contests are going back to a longer style globe dumbbell like that versus when they start getting short and everyone's putting it up against their ear.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just kind of looks goofy. I like and it just looks cool at the globes. And then
Yeah, it does.
And that was always the issue. I've had it happen at high level contests multiple times where the plates just don't stay secure in normal plate loadable dumbbells, and it's like when you have all that on the line and your plates come loose and lane twos don't. That's all the difference in the world.
Right.
But yeah, I want to go over just we've kind of skirted around how you start up the program. You're training everything more frequently, more specific. But if you just want to walk through like what a basic let's say you're starting a prep, we got 10, 12 weeks. Let's walk through like what a week looks like just for everyone, and if they might be interested in getting coaching from you as well.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously, see, the thing is with this style of training, I'm the guy who's actually been able to adapt DUP to strongman. I don't really know too many guys who have done that before at all. So it's important to just understand what DUP is at its base is. It's originally in the studies that are done at Florida Atlantic University is primarily powerlifting periodization, but it's it's just the performance of the human body, and so it works for strongman and bodybuilding as well, and all that kind of stuff. So it's important to understand that DUP style of training is not like something that you can just go get off the internet. It's not like just a set plan, like I'm going to go online and get the DUP. No, it's a theory of training. And the theory is number one, skill based. The more you do something, the better you're going to get at it. The more volume you can do at it in a given week, the bigger your muscles are going to grow, the stronger they are. And if you split something up over several days as opposed to just trying to cram it into one day, you're going to be mentally more prepared. You're going to get more volume. You're going to get stronger. Now, that being said, traditional style of training, back in the day, is more of a linear type of periodization where you have blocks of training. You traditionally, let's just, for example, 3 to 4 week blocks where you start with muscle building and then you go to strength for the next 3 to 4 weeks, and then finally power for the final 3 to 4 weeks. And one of the issues with this, I mean, it works. It does work, but at the same time, once you leave a block, like you leave your power block for a certain amount of time, you go into your bodybuilding block and then back into your strength block, you haven't really been working on your power specifically as much as you had in the past. So you're going to lose a lot of the adaptations. You're going to become less efficient at it, and it's going to affect your performance. So a daily undulating periodization is essentially doing all of those styles of training, for instance, strength, power, and hypertrophy in 1 week. So you're always adapting to that style of training. every style of training, and your muscles are usually always prepared for what, they're best prepared for power, strength, and they're going to be bigger because you're doing hypertrophy volume work. Now, that's not to say that that's just a base of what every DUP is. It's not like everybody's going to be doing strength, hypertrophy, and power. It depends on your goals. So, for instance, I have several guys that I'm training that are all doing a daily undulating style of periodization, but it's different because they have different goals. Some guys need to straight up just get bigger, put a little meat on your bones, put a little meat on their bones. So I have them doing 2 days of bodybuilding and 1 day of strength. Let's take, for instance, the deadlift. If I need them to become, build some muscle on the muscles that deadlift uses, I'm going to have them do hypertrophy deadlifting 2 days a week. And I still want them to be strong. So I'm also going to have them do a 3rd day of deadlifting for more of a strength kind of a day. And so it allows them to be able to pack in a whole lot more volume while still staying strong. And it really works well for off season, because in the off season, this is the time you get to tackle all of your weaknesses. So for instance, another guy, Ryan, we'll take Ryan, for example, Papa Swole. He came to me and he had an amazing amount of muscle already. He just spent his whole life bodybuilding, legs, shoulders, everything, just, getting as big as possible. But he didn't have any strength to back it up, really. I mean, it was just, I was kind of surprised, like, dude, you're huge. How are you not that strong? And I worked with him. And so for him, I had him in the gym lifting heavy, doing 3 days of strength training. Just 3 days of deadlifting for strength, and that's what he was doing. And because he had enough muscle, I didn't need him to build more muscle, so I wasn't going to waste my time on that. I broke down what he was lacking, what he needed, and that's what you deliver to him. So for instance, for me in the off season, like right now, I don't really have a specific competition that I'm getting ready for right now. So what do I need to do to be a better strongman? Number one, I'm a pretty small dude in the world of heavyweight strongmen. So I have a high focus on hypertrophy. So I'm in the gym deadlifting 3 days a week heavy to keep my strength up in the deadlift. But at the same time, on my accessory days, I'm really hammering my weak points, kind of like a bodybuilder in a way, really, really hard, because I need to build as much lean mass as absolutely possible. And one of the places for me that I have, weak amount of muscle growth compared to other guys in this sport are my legs. So what I'm going to do is right after my deadlifting for strength, I'm going to focus on maybe a lift like squats that, has probably the highest motor unit recruitment in the legs and is just all out the best for leg size. So I'm going to do 3 days a week of hypertrophy training, just cramming in tons of volume and allowing my body to adapt to it and grow and grow and grow. So it's really great because I can work on so many different things at once instead of just saying, oh, well, I got to build muscle now, so I'm just going to build muscle for 8 weeks and we'll see where I am, and then I guess I'm going to try to kind of get strong again and hope it'll suck because I'm going to have to take a lot of time adapting to get it lifting heavy again. No. I'm doing it all the time, so I'm always prepared for anything. I can always, at the drop of a hat, do a heavy deadlift, or I can always, at the drop of a hat, do anything like that I want. So that's what's so great about it. And then when I have a competition coming up, I have spent so much time working on my weak points that I sort of set those aside, okay, and I focus specifically what's going to be in the competition. So all of the weak points that were my weak points, I now transfer over into the comp prep, and it's now it's game time. It's specifically just focusing. It's dropping all that weak stuff, that weak point training, and now it's just picking up my specific laser focused, get good at what's going to be in the competition training. So it really just kind of depends. I can't say like, hey, how many I do this amount of sets and this amount of reps, because it is highly individualized and it just really depends on the goal. So my goal right now is not going to be the same goal that I have in 4 months, and my training is going to reflect that.
Yeah, I think that was awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And I try to tell people all the time is like there's no like magical set and rep scheme and stuff.
No.
The key to coaching and a good coach and someone who's writing a good program for you is that they're able to adapt to what happens.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people they'll find these programs that are on the internet, and it's just everything's written out. And what they don't realize is how a lot of those popular programs came about. It's a training log looking backwards. They didn't plan that 12 weeks out and then do it. There was a coach working with an athlete, writing their program day by day, week by week, and then they look back and they put it all together in a thing and said, this is what we did.
Exactly. Well, see, that's really getting into the heart of what I do and how I do it now. So back to what I said quite a while ago was when I really wanted to get serious about my training, I really wanted to quantify what I was doing, how it made me feel, what I was going to feel the next day, and so forth. I never had a grasp on it. I would just show up and kind of just, quote unquote, see how I feel today and just do whatever I feel, which you're listening to your body, but at the same time, where are you going to go from there? You're just constantly going to be flying blind. So what I was able to do with this style of training is, since I have a very limited amount of things that I do, for instance, if I want, let's just take comp prep, for example. Okay, comp prep. I'm going to deadlift. If I have deadlift on competition, I'm going to deadlift 3 days a week. I'm going to do log press 3 days a week. And I'm going to, let's say, do Atlas stone 3 days a week. Let's just say at a base level.
Sure.
I go in and I do a week of training. Okay, I feel how I feel. The next week I go in and I feel great. The third week I go in and I kind of start feeling like crap. I wonder what it was that gave me fatigue. What fatigued me? Probably the benching, the log pressing, and the Atlas stone. One of those three, or all three of them combined. So what it allows me to do is manipulate them very specifically, like, hey, I want to back off a little bit so that my log press feels better. I'm going to back off the deadlifting just a little bit. I don't have to worry about worrying about deadlifting, deficit deadlifting, leg curls, leg extensions, all this stuff. There's so many factors to manipulate in that type of a program when you're doing that type of a program that it's almost like, where do you start? Where do you start by manipulating your stimulus? I mean, it's just so much stuff to worry about, and it's much simpler as a coach to be able to really get a grasp on how my athletes are feeling, like being able to put myself into their shoes and knowing, hey, you felt like crap today, but guess what? You're going to go into the gym tomorrow and your deadlift is going to feel amazing. I promise you. And boom, it does. It happens. How do you do that? Because I know I've mastered the process. And that's what it takes to be a good coach, is to actually not just know how to train or whatever, but mastering the process of actually being in somebody's shoes, knowing how they're going to feel physically, knowing how they're going to feel mentally, and being able to set them up for success in that way. And that's where being a good coach is knowing how to go about the entire process from a bird's eye view, over above,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to add to it. Yeah, you've you shared a lot of good information with everyone today. It was got me fired up to go train.
Well, I want to know where.
Oh, dude. Well, hey, it's a rest day for me, but I think I might go knock out a couple curls or something now. You know what I'm saying? Hit the C4. But
I want to know where. So you said no specific competition, but in general, I mean, we're in January right now. So what's the rest of the year looking like?
Well,
what are you thinking?
The rest of the year right now, I mean, obviously, it's working on my weaknesses and getting stronger and bigger and more muscular. But as far as competing goes, definitely have my eyes on America's Strongest Man. That's number one.
There you go. Good.
Now, but also there are a couple other competitions. You have the Charlotte, North Carolina show. It's a Plat Plus Pro-Am. And then you have another one, Europa in Orlando, Florida, which is a lot closer to me. But I think Alan Kalle is heading that event. I don't think he's released the events yet. But I'm going to make an educated decision based on the kind of athlete that I am on which competition I'm going to do, and then go from there. But America's Strongest Man is definitely in my sights.
Awesome. I think that'll be fun. So
yeah, it'll be very fun.
Yeah, looking forward to continuing to follow your training as you prepare to that and see what's next. And if anyone wants to get a hold of you for coaching and, wants you to guide them in it and, follow this style of training, how can they get a hold of you or find more information on it?
Well, what they can do, number one is go check out my Instagram page, pro_strongman_Davis. And you'll find my page, and I have a website there if you go visit the website. And just finished it and got it looking nice and pretty. You go check out some details on there and watch some of the videos and stuff, that progress that people have made. And you send me a DM on Instagram or send me an email through my page, and we'll take care of you. Sit down and talk to you about your goals and what you want to do and the best way to go about them.
Awesome. And that's
yep.
DavisDiley.com is just your name. Is your
Yes,
website.
DavisDiley.com is my website, and check it out. Great information on there and stuff, so look forward to working with anybody that'd like to get stronger.
Awesome.
Just to end it on a high note, too.
Sir.
When I was going through your Instagram, I noticed you have a hell of a signature.
Hey, thanks, man. You know what?
Yeah.
All those days, I told you, I had a hunger for being really, really, really great, right? Back in the day, and in middle school, I remember I would sit there and doodle, and I was like, man, I want a cool signature. So instead of like drawing little pictures, just sit there and sign my name about a million.
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, you might as well. I mean, you could pen another Constitution if you'd like.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now too. You got those big.
It's pretty impressive.
Big swooping Ds.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Thoroughly good.
It's funny. Yeah, I was at a seminar last week, and they had some flyers, and there was me, some other coach and a pro baseball player.
Yeah.
And they hand it to me. They're like, hey, for everyone that shows up to the seminar tomorrow, do you want to sign some of these? And I'm looking at the pro baseball player's signature. He's a freaking Travis Ishikawa, I think he's played for the Giants in the World Series and stuff, and it looks like he's done this 1,000 times. Oh shit, I gotta figure this out real quick.
I gotta step it up.
Well, the other thing's actually real quick. Just finish it up. My dad, like I told you, he's a professional himself, and he was telling me one of the best pieces of advice that he got, I guess you could say, about signatures or whatnot, was from somebody that he worked under. It was really great. I don't remember the guy's name, but. Let's just call it, he was a big-time golfer, and he said, you know what, look, if somebody wants your signature, you should at least have a common courtesy to make it look nice and have them be able to read it, because that's something that they find special. And, not saying that anybody necessarily wants my signature at the moment or anything, but, it's just nice to have one like that, so.
Yeah. If you ask, it'll look... If you ever end up somewhere and they want you to sign something and they're going to hand it out, it won't look like that sloppy mess I left. So,
hey, all you got to do to distinguish between signatures or like types of signatures is look at the dumbbell that I had signed at the Cas. So, Davis, I bought the dumbbell after the Cas, and I had everyone in the Pro-Am sign it.
Awesome.
And there are some signatures that are just awesome.
Chicken scratch.
And then there are some you're like, what is that? And if you yesterday when I was doing Axel, in the video you can see the dumbbell, and it just says Cas in huge letters. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. I signed that one horribly. I know that, but my signatures this past weekend were way better.
They were on point.
I figured something out. I'm like, this works. This works for me. It's that's kind of how I feel the best way to do it is you need two signature big looping somethings.
Yeah.
Like you have in yours. You have the two D's, so I put the K at the front and the back, and then nothing in the middle. But and it made them kind of go like that, and I think it works. So I'm gonna get going and practice some signatures so I'm prepared, because we talked about what are your current weaknesses and how to address them, and now I'm going to go address mine, which is
he's going to use DUP with his signature.
Yeah. You got to be very, very specific with this training.
I don't know. I'm going to make sure I use the right kind of marker. It doesn't work with a pencil. It's going to be different. And since I'm obviously not going to lift anything impressive anytime soon, then I might as well be good at signing things. But really appreciate you coming on. Appreciate everyone listening. Go of course, subscribe to Strong Talk on iTunes if you don't already. Go back, listen to some of the past interviews we've done. Give us a 5-star rating. Check out davisdiley.com, at Starting Strongman, at all the underscores that you have, which makes them hard to say, at pro_strongman_Davis, and at Chrono Strength follow Mike. And we'll see you next week.